Welcome to Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Today we'll be covering movement in 4th edition. Jumping right into it, movement is actually surprisingly complicated in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. I'm going to condense all the information down to 10-15 minutes so you can get out of here and get ready to play your game. First thing you got to know is how your movement stat, your movement characteristic affects what your movement limits are. So for example, and this is a character that we created, Friendus. If you don't know what character creation is and don't know how to do it, I recommend you take a look at our character creation guide. It's in the video description below. You can take a look at it. It'll walk you through the entire thing. It's fast, it's efficient. I highly recommend it. You notice that he has a movement stat of 4. Taking a look at the movement stat, 4 corresponds to a walk distance of 8 and a run distance of 16. Now you might be confused on what the difference is here. Just think about it like this. The run distance is the maximum amount of distance you can move in one turn without spending an action. Okay, done. Charging. Now we cover this in the combat guide, but just think about it like this. Combat, if you run between your walk distance and your run distance directly toward an enemy in a straight line, you can perform a free melee attack at the end of that and get 1 advantage. Now, you don't get a second melee attack. It's just this melee attack gets a +1 advantage because you're charging at it, because you have momentum. Okay, we're going to cover more of that in the combat guide, in the advanced combat guide. Just take a look at the video description below. There's already a video posted on it, so don't need to worry about that. Disengaging. This is a type of movement. You can use advantage to disengage. You can use dodge to disengage. The long and short of it is that you have to spend advantage in order to disengage. You have to spend or roll a dodge test in order to disengage. You get out of there. Engagement is when you're trading blows. It's not zone protection. It's not zone of control like it is in 5th edition. So keep that in mind. Now here is where we start to get into what movement is actually. Now fleeing. Fleeing is involuntary. It's due to fear. It's due to magic. These kinds of things. They get a free attack. They get an advantage when you flee away. They might even get hit you and deal a lot of damage. It's not really what movement is specifically. That's more running, that's more climbing. But just know that sometimes you have to run away, and in those cases they get a +20 to hit you, they get 1 advantage, and you have to do a challenging cool test, and if you don't, then you have a broken condition. A broken condition basically means you're running, and you keep running, and you're running out of there, and you have to take tests. You have to take resolve tests, a specific kind of test, in order to get back. So for example, I just went ahead and posted the description for you. It's also in the book, which I give you a free copy of the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay core rulebook in the video description below. But here is just the long and short of it. All right, going back into the main meat of this, which is climbing. So climbing and running. Running. I talked about how the run distance of 16 yards is the base amount of movement you can do without spending an action. Well, running is like sprinting. It's like trying to increase that amount by using your action. So what is the amount you can increase your movement by using this action? Well, first of all, you do an average athletics test. You do an average athletics test. You go over to skills, you click this athletics button, and then you click +20 on average. Okay, done. Then you add whatever success level you got. For example, if you got a success level of -2, like this right here, -2, you take that success level and you add that to your run speed, and that is the bonus movement you get. So for example, your base is 16. You roll -2. That 16 minus 2 is 14. So 14 is the bonus that you can get. So adding the base movement speed plus the bonus, 16 plus 14 is 30. So you can go 30 yards that turn. Super simple. Running is just the bonus that you can get based on the baseline of your run speed plus whatever success level you roll in the average athletics test. Done. All right, climbing test. Climbing test is a little bit more complicated. Your base climbing speed is half of your movement characteristic. So movement characteristic 4, your base climbing speed is 2 yards up or down the ladder. It doesn't matter which way you're going. I think it should be higher if you're going down the ladder, but whatever. Now, the bonus, right? The bonus to your climbing speed is equal to you do the average climb test. You take this thing, take the average climb test, you roll it, you get the success levels from it. Pretend we got a success level of +2. You add that to your movement characteristic, which is 4, and that is the bonus. So in this case, 4 plus 2 is 6. 6 is the bonus you get to climbing if you spend an action to climb. So you use your regular movement speed to go. 4 divided by 2 is 2 yards. You climb 2 yards, and then you decide to spend an action and climb even more. You spend that action, you roll +2 success levels, you get 6 bonus, so you get to go another 6 yards, total of 8 yards. And then there's more here you can do using your climb test, using your action for this turn. You can ascend or descend at a rate of half plus success levels. Yep. Climbing difficulty is set by the GM and varies with the nature of the climbing surface, of course, right? Climbing up a ladder, it's pretty easy. You're climbing up a smooth castle wall, it's not going to be average, I can guarantee you that. It might be challenging, it might even be harder than that. Alright, so now we're done with combat, moving in combat. Now, there's 2 more things you got to cover, and they are critical. First thing you got to cover is leaping and falling. Essential, absolutely essential for skirmishers, for archers, for bowmen. You are going to be using these things in order to evade the horsemen, the cavalry, the knights that are coming in to destroy you. First thing we got to cover is leaping. You can leap your movement in feet without having to make a test. So, movement is 4. You can go 4 yards. That means you can go about 1 yard jumping. If you want to jump further, you have to take this athletics test, this average athletics test. And if you can run at least your movement in yards, you have to have a running start. If you don't have a running start, then it becomes challenging. And then on a success, each success level adds an extra foot to the leap. So for example, going back to our example, if you got -2, well, you didn't actually get anything. If you succeed with +0 SL levels, you get an extra 6 inches with your jump. I have no idea what happens if you get minus SL levels. They don't say in the rules, so just assume that it doesn't help you. Assume that it can only help you. That's what normal common sense would say. So let's say you get +2 success levels. +2 success levels, that means you can go 2 more feet, which means baseline you can do 4 feet. You get another 2, you get 6 feet, so that's about 2 yards. Instead of 1 and a little bit, you get 2 yards. That could be critical, because most of the time when you're leaping, you're actually leaping from a carriage onto a cliff, leaping from a tree to another tree, leaping from castle wall to a house, something like that. Leaping is extremely important because fall damage is brutal. Let me cover that right now. 1d10 damage plus 3 damage for every yard you fall. That means if you fall down 4 yards, my gosh, you're already taking 12 damage plus 1d10. I gotta tell you, you don't have that many wounds. Look at this guy, and I made him pretty tough. 12. Ha! Well, okay, his toughness is 32, so that's a little bit above average, but still, my god. 4 yards? Falling 4 yards, you deal 12 damage plus 1d10. That could potentially be 22 damage. I gotta tell you, it's not looking too good. Plus, it isn't modified by armor, so your armor isn't doing anything. Toughness bonus, of course, it can mitigate a little bit, but still. And we cover more of the combat, of how toughness, of how armor influences the damage you take in the combat section. Just go over there if you need to take a look at that. But yep, if you're purposely falling, then it's actually an average athletics test in order to lessen the damage. So just think about, roll, stop, drop, and roll. Hit the ground and roll. Mitigate the damage. Kind of like that. And if you succeed, you count as having fallen 1 less yard. And 1 yard is actually significant in this because every yard gives you 3 more damage. So you're actually saving yourself 3 damage. And if you reduce the distance to 0, then boom, done. Alright, and if you have more wounds are suffered from a fall than your toughness bonus, you also gain the prone condition, right? You fall to the ground and you're not on your feet anymore. Alright, done. Last section here, and that is going to be the pursuit. Pursuit is a type of movement, and you're going to want to know this one. It looks super complicated, but I'll just break it down into 4 steps. It's going to be super easy. First is determining the distance. So you should determine what the distance is between you and the people you're trying to pursue. So they recommend from 1, which is almost in reach, 4, which is a good lead, and 8, which is almost beyond reach. So for example, between 1 and 8, just pick a number that represents how far they are away from you. I usually go with 4. Test. Everyone actively moving in the pursuit rolls a test for their movement. Typically, this is drive, ride, or athletics. We cover this more in the skills section, but just know that driving is moving a carriage, moving something that you actually need to drive, a vehicle of some kind. Ride is when you're moving a horse, riding a griffin or hippogriff, something like that. And athletics is when you're pushing yourself, when you're running, when you're sprinting. Update the distance. So the lowest SL level of the pursued and the highest SL level of the pursuers is compared, and the distance between the two is compared. So essentially what this does is whoever did the best among the people that are pursuing and whoever did the worst among the people that are trying to get away are compared, and then you adjust the distance depending on that. And then you do that again and again and again until the distance either falls to 0, in which case you catch them, or it becomes 10 plus and then they get away. Now, the pursued people can sacrifice their slowest members in order to have them delay the people that are pursuing. And in that case, then of course they don't use the lowest success level, they actually use the second lowest. The person that's lowest actually gets caught, right? All right. Now, if they are abandoned, then you of course have to confront them. If the poor abandoned runner is not a priority target, it's quite likely that the pursuer will continue the pursuit if the other person is the target, right? And as each round passes, it's important to describe what happens in a fun, exciting fashion. If you score a large success level, describe people getting out of the way, giving you an opportunity to make ground. If you score a negative success level, describe tripping over crates, running into people, or slamming your coach into a wall, slowing you down. And here's an example. I'm not going to go into it, but just know that this is kind of a breakdown of how it goes on. Now, there are stuff that modify it. So for example, if you have high movement and the people that you're pursuing have low movement, of course that should be factored into a pursuit. And then of course, if you have, say, a mount that is, well, first of all, you're going to be using the movement of the mount, not the movement of your character. And so that will have a big impact. So here it is. You gain a bonus to the success level to the difference in the movement. So if you have a movement of 5, people that you're trying to chase has a movement of 4, and you get a bonus +1 a success level to the pursuit roll. Done. And here's an example. All right, guys, and that's all we need to do. That's all we need to cover. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a great day. I'll see you in the next video.